Step into sci-fi codes where mystery meets imagination. Enjoy the journey, and don't forget to subscribe.
Chapter 1: The Human Problem. Ambassador Zh-Tal's third set of appendages trembled with a combination of righteous indignation and what he adamantly refused to acknowledge as fear. His crystalline exoskeleton caught the light from the council chamber's illumination panels, casting vibrant reflections across the assembled delegates, each face, or approximation of one, reacting with various levels of alien apprehension. "Esteemed members of the council," he began, his translation matrix struggling to convey his horror, "I must bring to your attention, once again, the increasingly concerning behavior of our human colleagues." He forced out the word humans as though it were some unnameable illness, causing Commander Elena Doom Rodriguez, Earth's military liaison, to roll her eyes. She took a long, exaggerated sip from her steaming coffee, maintaining unbroken eye contact with the ambassador. Nearby photosynthians recoiled, their leafy bodies curling away in instinctive alarm at what they classified as industrial solvent. Zh-Tal's exoskeleton vibrated at what humans would call peak Karen frequency as he continued. "Yesterday, I witnessed no fewer than 12 humans engaging in what they call morning calisthenics in the embassy's shared recreation area. They were sweating." A ripple of gasps ran through the chamber, horrified murmurs echoing off the walls. Rodriguez muttered under her breath, "Oh no, basic biological functions. How horrifying." Zh-Tal pressed on, his voice rising in alarm. "Furthermore, they have begun importing increasing quantities of ghost peppers. Need I remind the council that these vegetables register as chemical weapons?" In the gallery, Lieutenant James Reaper Ollie casually hit a ghost pepper protein bar, taking a surreptitious bite. The gaseous intelligence delegate nearby briefly lost molecular cohesion, only to reform, appalled. And finally, Zh-Tal's voice shook, nearing crescendo. "They persistently attempt to introduce what they call game nights into interspecies cultural exchanges. Last week, they suggested something called Twister, a physical game of limb entanglement. The suggestion sent 3 Brachnoid delegates into molting cycles prematurely." Rodriguez made a note on her data pad, her expression impassive. "Note: Jenga night is still on for Thursday." The council chair, a semi-sentient mass of plasma contained within a biofield, pulsed thoughtfully. "While your concerns are noted, Ambassador Zh-Tal, humans remain technically within their rights according to the cultural expression clauses of the Galactic Charter. But they're so physical," Zh-Tal exclaimed, sounding nearly broken. "Yesterday, I saw one of them opening a nutrition packet with their teeth. Like a primitive predator." Rodriguez raised her coffee cup, smiling. The pull tab broke. Lieutenant Chen already submitted the necessary packaging complaint. And, Zh-Tal added, his crystalline form vibrating with indignation, "they actually read and follow the regulations. All of them. No species is that thorough unless they're plotting something." Rodriguez set her coffee down and leaned forward, her expression serene. "Ambassador, I assure you, we're simply trying to be model citizens of the galactic community." She stood, stretching. "And now, if you'll excuse me, it's time for my high-intensity interval training. We humans do value punctuality." The sound of faint stress fractures cracking in Zh-Tal's crystalline frame accompanied Rodriguez as she exited, leaving a trail of muttered species-specific expletives in her wake. Several delegates were updating threat assessment protocols, just another day in the shifting landscape of galactic politics. Chapter 2: Human Diplomacy, Reconsidered. Exactly 4 hours, 17 minutes, and 32 seconds later, the emergency alert blared through the Galactic Council chambers. "Attention, the civilian transport vessel Stellar Serenity has been boarded by pirates from the Crimson Claw Consortium." Rodriguez, still gloriously post-workout and glistening with sweat, reviewed the passenger manifest for the Stellar Serenity, spotting a note, 15 humans, recently returned from a team-building exercise. Special operations training counted as team building, technically. Ambassador ZH Tall declared, "We must form a committee to discuss the formation of a task force to handle negotiation protocols." "Oh, Rodriguez muttered, then louder, "or we could just deal with it." The room stilled. "But, they're pirates, with weapons." ZH Tall gasped. Rodriguez tapped her communicator. "Lieutenant Ali, patch me through to the Stellar Serenity." Moments later, the screen flickered to life, showing a scarred Varian pirate captain. Behind him, the human hostages sat cross-legged, looking like bored students in assembly. One was stretching. "Council," the pirate growled, "we demand." "Hi there," Rodriguez interrupted brightly. "Standard regulation requires me to offer you a chance to surrender. Are you interested?" The pirate blinked in disbelief. "Surrender? We have hostages." One of the humans raised his hand. "Commander, if they say no, does that mean we're off best behavior protocol?" Rodriguez's grin sharpened, becoming almost predatory. "Yes, Lieutenant Chen, it would." The humans perked up. One cracked their knuckles, another hummed the ancient battle hymn, "Let the bodies hit the floor," its classification as religious in the Galactic archives adding a layer of confusion. The pirate captain's confidence wavered. What is best behavior protocol?" "Oh, nothing much," Rodriguez said lightly. "Just a requirement that we humans act civilized and avoid showing our full capabilities. You know, like using ordinary objects as weapons or demonstrating why Earth is classified as a death world." In the background, the humans were practically vibrating with barely restrained energy, a caffeine-fueled storm waiting to be unleashed. Rodriguez's tone was conversational, almost bored. "So what's it going to be?" she asked. "Surrender, or should my people stop pretending?" The pirate's voice rose. "No species can be that innovative, adaptable, and insane." "Oh, but we can," Rodriguez assured him, checking her watch. "In fact, you've caught us right between caffeine and cardio. It's the sweet spot." A pirate surrendered on the spot, only to be hoisted by his colleagues in a last-ditch attempt to resist. Rodriguez offered one final smirk. "Very well. Have fun, everyone, and please file your reports in triplicate. Remember, property damage claims are murder to process." Chapter 3, Advanced Diplomatic Training. The council chamber fell into a stunned silence as the security feed flickered on, broadcasting footage from the Stellar Serenity. The delegates stared, horrified, as Lieutenant Chen gleefully ran up a wall, pushed off the ceiling, and drop-kicked a pirate, calling out, "Parkour." Are they enjoying this?" a delegate managed. "Oh, you have no idea," Rodriguez replied, filling out yet another form. On screen, Dr. Xiao was turning her supply of ghost pepper extract into an aerosol. "I call it spicing things up." Several pirates surrendered immediately. Meanwhile, Sergeant Jackson was using a resistance band to immobilize pirates, calling out, "Remember to engage your core." Nearby, Chief Engineer Patel directed drones into a 3D tactical formation, quietly saying, "At least I'm not using the coffee maker. That'd be uncivilized." Ambassador ZH Tall was practically dissolving under the strain. This can't be happening." "Oh, it's almost over," Rodriguez assured him. "They're about to run out of pirates to educate." She leaned back, watching as Lieutenant Chen explained free running to a thoroughly demoralized pirate. It was at that moment, watching humanity in all its chaotic glory, that the Galactic Council began to reconsider its understanding of human civilization. Perhaps humans weren't struggling to meet galactic standards of decorum. Perhaps they had been holding back out of politeness. The unsettling sound of ZH Tall stress cracking echoed through the chamber as Lieutenant Chen delivered one last pun, a final insult, leaving the council delegates with the unshakable sense that the humans had been merely toying with everyone this entire time. Chapter 4: Diplomatic Debrief and Unfortunate Realizations. The fallout from the Stellar Serenity incident hung heavily in the council chambers. Delegates from across the galaxy exchanged tense glances, their expressions flickering between alarm and a faint sense of awe. Ambassador Zh was among the most unsettled, his crystalline appendages quivering faintly as he awaited a private meeting with the council leaders. The images of the humans, who were supposed to be helpless hostages, dispatching the pirates with alarming ease, played over and over in his mind. He couldn't shake the memory of Lieutenant Chen's gleeful expression as he drop-kicked a Varian pirate while exclaiming, "Parkour," in a tone that conveyed both joy and predatory thrill. Or Dr. Shao, who had weaponized ghost pepper extract, turning it into a chemical agent that left the attackers clutching their throats and eyes. In his hands, Zh held a document thick with grievances he had intended to file against the humans, listing their reckless and disruptive behavior as a destabilizing influence on the Galactic Council's sense of decorum. But now, even he felt a strange new reluctance. The humans had displayed a terrifying efficiency, yes, but it was also undeniably effective. There was an unsettling charisma to their methods, a balance between improvisation and lethal skill that he hadn't yet managed to categorize. As Zh waited, Commander Rodriguez strode into the chambers with a carefully neutral expression, though her eyes held a faint glimmer of amusement. She greeted the delegates and made her way toward Zh, placing a thick, neatly bound report on his desk. "Ambassador," she began, her tone as professional as ever, though her lips twitched in a barely restrained grin. "I've submitted a full report on the Stellar Serenity incident. It includes the inventory of ghost peppers, the tactics used, and the tactical analysis of other cultural exchange activities humans have proposed: Twister, Jenga, Dodgeball. I've taken the liberty of listing their potential applications in interspecies team-building exercises." Zh's antennae quivered with a mix of indignation and faint disbelief. "Commander Rodriguez," he began, his crystalline voice wavering slightly, "we appreciate your species' unique expressions of culture, but this incident clearly highlights a profound lack of alignment with the Council's values. This level of physicality is simply incompatible with the dignity of intergalactic governance." Rodriguez only shrugged, her expression mild. "Physical adaptability is part of who we are, Ambassador. We're happy to share that skill set if the Council is interested." Her tone took on a sharper edge. "After all, we're all on the same side here, right?" Zh could only stare, momentarily at a loss. He had expected defensiveness, maybe even an apology, but Rodriguez's words were charged with a quiet conviction that unsettled him even more. The council chair, a semi-sentient mass of plasma contained within a biofield, pulsed thoughtfully, its voice filling the chamber. "Given the unforeseen nature of recent events and their implications for council security, we propose a more structured analysis. Let us convene an evaluation of human adaptability, with particular attention to their behavioral responses in interspecies environments." Around the chamber, delegates murmured their agreement. The events aboard the Stellar Serenity had revealed humanity's capacity for swift, unpredictable, and efficient action. If they could so easily dispatch a group of seasoned pirates, what else might they be capable of? Zh raised a shaky appendage in support. "Yes. I believe further examination of humanity's approach to interspecies relations is overdue." Rodriguez's expression was inscrutable, though her eyes sparkled with a flicker of mischief as she glanced at her human colleagues. It was clear to everyone in the room, this evaluation was about to yield insights, and perhaps consequences, that few were prepared for. Chapter 5: The Great Cultural Exchange Simulation. In response to the Council's proposal, a unique initiative was launched, the Galactic Cultural Resilience Simulation, a controlled exercise designed to test humanity's adaptability within a multi-species task force. This simulation would ideally allow humans to demonstrate their cultural flexibility in a non-lethal, diplomatically approved manner. The simulation was set on a remote asteroid equipped with diverse environmental zones, each designed to mimic various planetary conditions and terrain challenges. Alien representatives were paired with human delegates on mixed-species teams, each tasked with navigating and surviving the artificial world's hazards without using weapons or advanced technology. The rules forbade any tactics classified as hostile or unsporting, a guideline clearly aimed at the humans, though they only smiled at the restrictions. On the morning of the simulation, Ambassador Z.H. Tall watched as the humans gathered in the main preparation room, each of them visibly relaxed, stretching or talking among themselves as if preparing for a casual game rather than a high-stakes evaluation of their entire species. Z.H. Tall's antennae twitched with frustration and apprehension as he made his way to Rodriguez, who stood with her usual calm composure. "Commander Rodriguez," he began, barely containing his irritation, "I must remind your team that this exercise is to demonstrate restraint, not improvisational chaos." Rodriguez flashed a quick smile. "Don't worry, Ambassador. We understand. After all, we're here to represent our best behavior." Z.H. Tall noted, with a sinking feeling, that her idea of best behavior didn't seem very reassuring. But before he could object, the call came over the speakers, and the teams were deployed. The first stage of the simulation was a power outage scenario, intended to test the participants' resourcefulness in a constructed urban environment. While most species found themselves stumbling in the dark, trying to work with unfamiliar objects, the humans whipped out headlamps, portable battery packs, and flashlights seemingly out of thin air. Within minutes, they had formed search teams, directing alien participants through dimly lit corridors with an ease that left the council observers stunned. Z.H. Tall watched with growing consternation. He had expected the humans to struggle without access to technology or weaponry, but instead, they were unfazed, moving as though they were back on Earth. To his horror, they even seemed to be enjoying themselves. The crisis designed to challenge them was, to the humans, nothing more than a mild inconvenience. The next stage involved a staged resource scarcity scenario, where food supplies were limited, and team members were expected to ration or collaborate for provisions. As the alien participants hesitated, unfamiliar with foraging in an artificial environment, the humans immediately identified edible plants, purified water, and set up a mini-camp complete with makeshift hammocks and a campfire. "I think I'll make s'mores," one human participant commented, sparking confused glances from his alien teammates. The humans laughed, cooked, and even sang campfire songs, filling the simulated environment with an eerie sense of camaraderie that felt completely out of place in a survival test. Watching from the observation deck, Ambassador Z.H. Tall shivered involuntarily. They enjoy discomfort," he murmured, barely believing what he was witnessing. His leafy Photosynthian colleagues nodded in silent horror. When the final stage arrived, a security threat designed to test participants' ability to cooperate under pressure, the Council's remaining illusions of human restraint were shattered. Robotic drones, programmed to simulate an enemy attack, swept through the artificial landscape, buzzing menacingly as they approached the participants. Council observers watched, expecting the humans to falter without access to weapons. Instead, the humans moved as one. They identified the drones' weak points, disabling them with makeshift tools, their own limbs, and, in one memorable instance, a crowbar that a human engineer had smuggled in, citing it as a multi-purpose tool. The council members watched, speechless, as the humans dispatched the droids with a combination of ingenuity and practiced ease. One of the humans, clearly exhilarated, let out a victorious shout as the last droid was neutralized. "That was awesome." Z.H. Tall, his crystalline frame vibrating with anxiety, turned to Rodriguez. "Commander, what is this capacity for enjoyment amid conflict?" Rodriguez considered him, her expression thoughtful. "Humans like to solve problems, Ambassador. We're adaptable, and when we're put to the test, we rise to the challenge." Her expression softened, and she added quietly, "We're not trying to unsettle you. We just thrive on adaptability." Chapter 6: A New Understanding. In the days following the simulation, the council chamber was filled with hushed conversations and uneasy glances cast toward the human delegation. The participants' actions in the simulation had left an indelible impression. It was clear that humans possessed a resilience and adaptability that few, if any, other species shared. When the council reconvened, Ambassador Z.H. Tall was among the first to speak. "Esteemed delegates," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "I confess that my initial reports on humanity may have been hasty. I mistook their unpredictable nature for recklessness, but this exercise has shown us something else." He hesitated, his antennae lowering in deference. "The humans possess a unique approach to interspecies relations, one that challenges our own understanding of resilience." There was a ripple of murmurs among the delegates, many nodding in agreement. The council chair's biofield pulsed, radiating an air of contemplation. "The events we have witnessed underscore a need for deeper understanding. Perhaps we can find a way to harmonize these differences and make use of humanity's distinct capabilities." Commander Rodriguez stepped forward, her gaze steady. "Ambassador Z.H. Tall, on behalf of humanity, I thank you for your honesty. We recognize that our methods might seem intense to others, but our intentions are to contribute, not to threaten." She glanced around the room. "We're willing to work together to make our presence as harmonious as possible. And," she added with a faint smile, "we'd be glad to ease off on the ghost peppers." Z.H. Tall nodded slowly, though he was still visibly tense. "Perhaps, Commander, that would be wise. And perhaps, there is much we can learn from each other. With a bit more caution around caffeine." The council session concluded with a renewed sense of mutual respect. Though humanity would always be seen as a bit of a wild card, the council had come to a new understanding. Humanity's resilience, adaptability, and surprising warmth were assets as much as they were peculiarities. And in time, perhaps, humanity and the council would learn to appreciate each other in all their strange, unpredictable, and uniquely resilient ways. Chapter 7: The Call to Arms. Several months had passed since the Galactic Council's cultural resilience simulation, and the interspecies relations with humanity had evolved with a surprising sense of ease. Humans had become a permanent fixture within the Council, leading numerous exchange programs, tactical workshops, and even cultural showcases. Most species, though occasionally baffled, had come to accept the humans' unique qualities with a mixture of intrigue and caution. Ambassador Z.H. Tall had, grudgingly, even begun to view humans with a faint sense of admiration. They were strange, to be sure, but undeniably resilient and often willing to share their resources, knowledge, and, most notably, enthusiasm. And as much as he hated to admit it, he had started to anticipate his meetings with Commander Rodriguez, if only to see what new, bizarre ideas she might propose. However, the newly strengthened alliances were soon put to the ultimate test when news arrived from the outer systems. A massive fleet of unknown origin had been spotted near Council space, moving with alarming speed toward inhabited sectors. Known as the Nihilin Armada, this species had no record in the Council's extensive database, nor any apparent interest in negotiation. Initial reports revealed that the Nihilin forces advanced by absorbing entire worlds, stripping planets of life and resources before moving on. And now, they were headed straight for the Council's central worlds. In the Council chamber, delegates murmured nervously, exchanging panicked glances as the full scale of the threat became clear. The Council chair pulsed with anxiety, emitting a dull hum that reverberated through the assembly. "Ambassador Z.H. Tall, what can be done?" a Photosynthian delegate asked, her voice shaking. "They're approaching our colonies, and we have no record of their vulnerabilities. We must prepare an immediate evacuation." Z.H. Tall, still shaken by the news, straightened his crystalline frame, trying to project calm. "Yes, we must prioritize civilian safety. However, we must also prepare a defensive line. If these Nihilans reach the inner planets. Commander Rodriguez, seated nearby, was already scribbling a strategy on her datapad, her brow furrowed in concentration. She looked up, her eyes flashing with that familiar human intensity. With all due respect, Ambassador, evacuation alone won't stop them. The Nihilans need to know that we're not going to roll over and let them wipe us out. They need to know that we'll fight. The chamber fell silent as her words echoed, the other delegates visibly uncomfortable with the idea of open conflict. Council regulations dictated that negotiation was the first, and usually only, method of conflict resolution. This call to arms, coming from the humans, was a direct challenge to centuries of protocol. ZH-Tal shifted, his crystalline appendages clinking nervously, but his gaze remained fixed on Rodriguez. Commander, I understand your position, but council members are unaccustomed to direct warfare. We have always relied on diplomatic measures. And how's that working with the Nihilans? Rodriguez replied evenly. Ambassador, I respect diplomacy as much as the next person. But we've already sent envoys to the Nihilans, and they didn't return. They're coming with one goal, to consume. And we're the next course. The council chair hummed contemplatively. Commander Rodriguez, what do you propose? The Galactic Charter mandates peace. However, if our existence is threatened, extraordinary measures could be taken. Rodriguez's eyes gleamed with fierce determination. I propose a unified task force, humans and council delegates, working together. We'll draw the Nihilans away from civilian areas, engage them on our terms, and show them exactly why the council should be feared. Ambassador ZH-Tal hesitated, glancing around the chamber. He knew the council delegates were wary of human tactics and feared their unpredictability. But as he considered the threat looming at their borders, he realized something crucial. Humanity's unique combination of courage, adaptability, and sheer stubbornness might be the council's best shot at survival. I support the commander's proposal, ZH-Tal declared, surprising even himself. Humanity has demonstrated capabilities that we do not possess. This is not a conventional threat. Perhaps unconventional methods are required. The room buzzed with anxious murmurs, but one by one, other delegates nodded their agreement. If the humans were willing to lead, the others would follow. The battle for the Galactic Front. In the days that followed, the Council's forces mobilized, outfitted with advanced weaponry, strategic training, and, naturally, caffeine reserves for the humans. Under Rodriguez's command, the task force prepared to intercept the Nihilan armada in a remote star system, far enough from inhabited worlds to minimize collateral damage. Alien ships lined up beside human cruisers, their pilots tense but resolute. ZH-Tal himself had volunteered to join the front lines, partly out of duty and partly, he had to admit, out of a desire to see firsthand what humans could accomplish. As he boarded his ship, he spotted Rodriguez nearby, surrounded by her team. They exchanged a nod, a silent acknowledgement of their unlikely alliance. Ambassador, Rodriguez called, joining him on the command deck. We've got the formation set. But just a heads up, if things get dicey, you might see a few unorthodox moves. ZH-Tal tried to suppress a shudder but managed a stiff nod. I expect nothing less from humanity. The task force soon reached the Nihilan fleet, a monstrous array of ships bristling with weaponry and emitting a faint, ominous hum that seemed to resonate through space itself. Rodriguez activated the communication channel, her voice ringing out across the fleet. Task Force, this is Commander Rodriguez. Our objective is clear: protect the Council, defend each other, and make sure the Nihilans know they've crossed the wrong galaxy. Let's show them what we're made of. With a roar of engines, the fleet surged forward, and the battle began. The Nihilan ships responded with brutal efficiency, launching waves of energy blasts that rippled through the void. But the Council forces held their ground, each species deploying tactics tailored to their strengths. Photosynthians used solar shields to deflect attacks, Varians maneuvered with lightning speed, and humans threw every trick in the book. Rodriguez's team moved like a well-oiled machine, adapting to each new threat with startling precision. One human pilot twisted his ship in a wild spiral to avoid an incoming blast, then redirected it toward a Nihilin vessel, using the debris to mask his approach. Another unleashed a barrage of makeshift explosives, assembled from spare ship components, that caught the Nihilins off guard. As Zhl watched in awe, he realized that this was more than just battle. This was humanity's art form, a chaotic, improvisational display that blended skill and instinct into a single, relentless force. And for the first time, he understood why they thrived on challenge and adversity. They lived for it. After hours of fierce combat, the Nihilin armada began to falter. A handful of their ships turned, retreating into the depths of space. A collective cheer erupted across the Council's communication channels. But Rodriguez's voice cut through the celebration. "Hold steady, everyone. They're regrouping." Zhl turned to her, concern etched on his crystalline face. "Commander, we're running low on resources. If they launch another wave..." Rodriguez's expression hardened, her jaw set. "Then we'll hit them harder." She glanced at her team, a spark of something fierce in her gaze. "We've got one last trick up our sleeve." As the Nihilins reassembled, the Council fleet held its position, waiting for Rodriguez's signal. The Nihilins advanced, confident in their numbers. And then, with a flash of light, the human ships broke formation, scattering in unpredictable directions and creating chaos in the Nihilin ranks. The humans executed maneuvers that defied logic, weaving through the Nihilin line and confusing their targeting systems. The Council ships followed suit, imitating the humans' tactics with growing confidence. Together, they struck with a coordinated assault, hitting the Nihilin fleet from every angle until their formation shattered completely. The enemy fleet, unable to withstand the relentless assault, disbanded, its remnants fleeing back to the dark reaches of space. As the dust settled, a quiet sense of victory filled the Council channels. They had done the unthinkable, united under the most extraordinary of circumstances, they had defended their galaxy. Epilogue, a new era. Back in the Council chamber, the delegates gathered to debrief, many of them still visibly shaken but wearing expressions of quiet pride. They had faced a threat unlike any they had ever known, and they had triumphed, not just because of their technology, but because of their unity, and, yes, because of humanity's courage. Ambassador Zhl took the floor, his crystalline form glowing with an unfamiliar warmth. "Today, we have witnessed the power of cooperation in its truest form. And though we have been cautious in our dealings with humanity, it is clear to me now that their strength is not a threat, but a gift." Rodriguez nodded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "And we couldn't have done it alone, Ambassador. You all rose to the challenge, and we're honored to stand by you." The Council chair pulsed in agreement, its light glowing warmly. "Let this day mark a new chapter for the Council, one where our differences are not points of division, but sources of strength."
Enjoyed the story? Show your love by liking this video and subscribing for more epic tales.